Anytime you paint with a broad brush or a one size fits all, you run the risk that it fits no one.
We have a very special guest here. We have Eric Brotman with us here. Eric, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Nate. Thanks for having me.
Well, first off, you've written a couple books, and what we're really going to talk about here is your one that is called "Don't Retire, Graduate." And so, what was your inspiration for writing that book?
My inspiration was seeing in my almost 30 years of being a financial advisor, seeing people retire and not thrive.
Hmm.
And, I think we have to put the definition of retirement under a microscope here because to retire is to disappear, to withdraw.
Hmm.
In fact, in the UK, to retire is to go to sleep. I don't know too many people want to do that for what could be 30 years of their lives. It's a third of your life.
Definitely not.
So I think it's really important to find ways to make retirement something to look forward to as an advancement rather than a retreat. And so I likened it to graduating to the
Hmm.
next step. In our country, we look at elders differently than the rest of the world. In most of the world, the elders are the wisest, and they're the ones you go to for advice. Here, we're put out to pasture. Why?
Hmm.
We still have all that experience and advice. We're just not asked for it anymore. And so there's got to be ways to change that narrative.
I know millennials come up with sayings like "Okay, Boomer" or whatever, that shows a lack of respect for that older generation. So yeah, you're absolutely right, and it's important, I think, because you talk a little bit about purpose, right? And sometimes people can just kind of waste away if they don't have something that they are really wanting to do. Um, and I've got a lot of my clients. You mentioned something about like how it's just difficult, and giving someone permission to spend their money in retirement and really thrive, like you said, is something that I find that transition being very difficult for somebody to make because it is the exact opposite of what they've been doing their entire life. You've been getting a steady paycheck and saving money. Now they're not getting that paycheck and they're supposed to be spending that money. So talk about that mindset switch a little bit, if you could.
It's major, and it's a one time thing. We grow up learning to save money. Even as children, we learn that there's a value to saving for something. So
Hmm.
we spend 40, 50, 60 years growing and accumulating and often taking great pride in the wealth we're building. And then when it comes time to use it, we're incredibly hesitant to do so. And part of it's because it's a completely different skill set. Building an accumulation is actually very simple math.
Hmm.
It's very simple. You put X dollars away for Y years, you earn Z%, and here's your pot of money.
Yep.
Figuring out how to use it and how to use it in a way that's perpetual, that you're not going to run out of it, when you're really not in a position to earn the way you were perhaps during your career, it's a scary thing.
Yeah.
And I've heard it said that to be young and broke is an inconvenience, but to be old and broke is a tragedy.
Hmm.
You can't put a price on the safety and security of knowing that you're not going to outlive your money. That is fundamentally the most key component to retirement in the traditional sense, at least financially. There's more to it qualitatively, but quantitatively, it's am I going to have enough money to outlast my oxygen?
Hmm. Yeah. Biggest question on everybody's mind when they get to retire. And so let's talk about that then a little bit. There are a few different schools of thought on how to generate income in retirement. So if you want to talk about some of those right now, go right ahead.
Sure. There's several different strategies, and really, the strategy that's right for an individual or a couple is going to be unique to their situation somewhat. So, anytime you paint with a broad brush or a one size fits all, you run the risk that it fits no one. So,
Hmm.
let's begin with that caveat.
Sure.
Um, the way to structure your retirement income, in my opinion, has everything to do with the percentage of your nest egg that you need to live on in order to thrive the way you want to every year.
Hmm.
So if you have a nest egg that's built and you only need 2% of it a year in order to live the way you've been living, number one, that's a tremendous success. Number two, it means not only are you unlikely to outlive your money, you're likely to continue to grow it, not only to keep up with
Hmm.
inflation, but potentially to leave a significant financial legacy. So you would have a strategy that, in my opinion, would be very much a total return strategy. You don't have to do a whole lot of fancy machinations to make that happen. You're in such good shape. For
Hmm.
folks in sort of in the middle, in that 4%, you hear the rule of 4%, which has been debunked over and over again.
Yep.
because of the sequence and series of returns and all the studies that have been done by math wonks over the years that prove that that's in fact not necessarily a sustainable withdrawal, and there are circumstances where it won't work. If you're going to be in a situation where you need 4% of your nest egg, where for every $1 million you've accumulated, you need $40,000 a year of income. If that's true, it's going to be necessary to use an asset segregation strategy. Some would inarticulately refer to this as the bucket strategy, which means you have some money that's set aside for short term, so you know what you're going to live on for the next, say, 5 years. You have an intermediate term bucket. That's the money that you're going to try and grow, but with kid gloves, because you're going to use it 5 years from now. And then you have the long-term money that, by all accounts, you're not going to touch for 10 years. And if that's true, you can continue to allow for some investment risk so that you still have a shot at growing your principal.
Yeah.
For folks who need withdrawals of 5, 6, 7%, first of all, that's not sustainable for as long as we live. In almost every case, it's a recipe for disaster. And it requires the use of insurance-based solutions or true income strategies, most of which have fleas on that dog. So whether it's an annuity strategy that people hate because they're expensive, but at the end of the day, it might be the solution you need, whether it's doing some type of reverse mortgaging, for example, where you're tapping the assets in your home. There are lots of strategies and ways to try and get that down. None of them are anyone's first choice. But they can solve some problems if you're in that situation. And the better way to solve it, quite frankly, is to stay engaged, to stay working part-time in some way, and not to give up your entire check. Close the gap with some consulting or some or something that's income producing. But in the event you can't do that, either medically or for whatever other reason, if you're in a position where your withdrawal rate's that high, you have to take steps to preserve it. And that always means giving something up. There's no free lunch.
So you can check out all our other videos on this channel. You can, we have a podcast, another YouTube channel for those podcasts, Retirement Rescue Radio, where we go deeper into different topics, 20, 30 minutes. If we're interviewing somebody, a whole hour. And all those links are going to be in the description, by the way. You can check us out on LinkedIn, Facebook. We've got a ton of resources to help educate you. So as always, if you want more confidence in your retirement, go ahead and check out a lot of our other content, or maybe schedule some time to visit with us, but make sure to smash that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you can always be updated whenever we come out with more content, because we are always, like I said, trying to bring out enough content to empower you to live the retirement that you deserve. So thanks for tuning in, and come back and see us again next week. Bye.